Hey, what's up YouTube? Welcome to today's video, and we're going to be doing our first ever video on Diablo 4. Now, I have done a little bit of research on Diablo 4, and from what I can see, most people's sentiment is relatively positive. In this video right here, you're going to be looking at the trailer for the open beta, which actually launches on, I think it's March 17th through 19th. I'm going to make a video about how you can get the open beta for free with early access. It does involve eating some chicken, but I do think it's only available in the United States. However, I think there's some ways around it, but basically in this video, I'm going to go over one of the biggest things of any ARPG, and I do think that Diablo 4's trading system gives me hope for the game a little bit, and is definitely a different way of approaching it, and is definitely a way that Path of Exile is actually trying to emulate a little bit, and we're going to see exactly what you can trade in Diablo 4, some of the shortcomings of the trade system in Diablo 4, and whether this trade system is going to have good outlook for longevity of Diablo. Now, trade is one of the most vital parts of any ARPG. I think a lot of people, when they play Path of Exile right now, they enjoy the economy aspect of it. Now, the way you trade in Path of Exile, however, is not that great. There's no sort of auction house system for the, for the mass materials. The buying experience relies on someone accepting an invite, and sometimes they're just AFK. Now, the one thing that distinguishes Path of Exile over any other ARPG is that their economy system is very, very unique. There is no gold standard where you're using gold to trade for items. Everything is pegged to other crafting materials, whether that be chaos orbs or divine orbs or fusings or vol orbs. So there's so many different things that Path of Exile uses for trading. Now, Diablo 4 is going to be a little bit more cookie cutter. It uses gold from what I see, but you can also trade a lot of different items, except the rarest items. So it's going to have account-bound items. It's still going to have soul-bound items. Now, the reason they want to do this is because it actually helps out, since full-blown trade enabled players to RMT the best gear. So right now, if I go on PoE Ninja, I go look at the people with the highest DPS. A lot of them, I can guarantee you, probably swiped a little credit card and then they bought the gear, because there's no barrier to actually just going out, spending currency, and being able to buy the best gear. Now, you could probably still get the best gear if you buy accounts in Diablo 4, but that's just a whole different story. And having trade does cheapen the experience a little bit. When you look at the ladder, you don't really know if that person actually obtained all of their items legitimately. So this is some of the stuff that people said about Diablo 4 from some of the game designers before. So they want to say, we want to make sure that there is trading in Diablo 4, but not completely open-ended trading, so that players can't get all of the best items by not even playing the game. So right now in Path of Exile, you can actually get every single one of the best items through trading. If you have the currency, you don't even need to play the game. As long as you have the currency, you can get all of the best items. Now, a lot of people are also worried about if Diablo 4 is going to be pay to win, and you cannot sell or trade anything that comes from the shop in Diablo 4. So there is going to be a cosmetic shop in Diablo 4. However, you can't actually sell the cosmetic items and get in-game currency to buy better gear. Now, solving trade, I do think that I think that solving trade will dictate how good the longevity of Diablo 4 is. A lot of people are worried about how long can you actually play Diablo 4 before the chase is gone. And without trade, a lot of people are pretty much saying that Diablo 4 is a glorified single-player game. Now, what is trading like in previous ARPGs? Now, Diablo 2, I do think that Blizzard kind of want to emulate how Diablo 2 does trading. So Diablo 2 pretty much relies on forums and D2JSP. So you can see D2JSP is pretty much a third-party external website where people list their items, and then you're able to see what items, and then you can message them in game, or you can submit an offer, and then when they get your message, they'll message you in the game, and then you guys do the trading transaction. Now, Diablo 3 took this a whole different route. They went with the real money auction house before realizing that it was a complete disaster. So you can see right here, a lot of people, when they played Diablo 3 back in the day, they made absolute bank. So this guy's selling the Storm Shield for $250, $250, $250. Or no, this is a search parameter. So a lot of people were buying items for $250. $250, I think, was the cap. So the reason they try to use the real money auction house is because they wanted to make it so that RMT and sketchy player trades would not be that prevalent. However, the whole experience was a disaster. So Diablo 3 eventually abandoned it and moved over to full solo self-found, where you can't trade any items at all. Now, Path of Exile does it in two different ways. There's two different game modes right now. There's full-blown trade where everything can pretty much be traded. In this previous league, they did Sanctum, where you had an account-bound item where you couldn't trade it. A lot of people liked it. A lot of people hated it. Now, there are also dedicated solo self-found modes in Path of Exile, and this is where a lot of the competitive racing events occur. Now, in order for there to be competition in these race events, having solo self-found is pretty important because you don't want someone to just have a bunch of people funneling them the currency and the gear, and they pretty much don't even need to play the game, and then they get all of the best items and they have the best characters. So that kind of cheapens the whole competitive integrity of the scene. Now, how does trade in Diablo 4 actually work? So there's different ways to facilitate the trade. There is not going to be an in-game auction house. So right now you have to find players to trade on dedicated chat channels for trading on Battle.net. I'm not really sure exactly how that's going to go. So are you going to be able to join a trade channel right here, post your item for sale, post how much you want to sell it for? So this really reminds me back in the day of like OSRS or WoW, where you spam it in the trade channel. So maybe they want to have a more nostalgic experience. I do think that if that is the only way that Blizzard officially supports, so they don't actually have an official site like Path of Exile Trade does, then there's probably going to be a lot of reliance on Discord servers. So you would have something similar to TFT where people would post their items and it would be a much better system. Or there's going to be a third-party website like D2JSP again, or some sort of forums that's done a lot better. But basically, the trade system does not seem like it's going to be super fleshed out. There's not going to be some crazy streamlined experience. So this is pretty much what they say. You invite the person you want to trade with to your party. This allows both players to be in the same world state in Diablo 4. You head to the trading destination of choice. So this is pretty much like the town where you go to. We suspect that the starting town will become a trading hub. Get close to the character you want to trade. Open the action wheel, then select invite to trade. Other party must accept the request to trade. And then you can add items to the trade window. And once both parties are happy with the items in their respective windows, they can click on the button saying lock in offer. So it's a pretty similar trading experience to how PoE currently is. You invite them to your party. You look at the item in the trade window, and then you press accept. Now, this is the important part. What can you actually trade in Diablo 4? Now, Diablo 4 has a trade system where only certain items/currencies can be traded. So you can kind of think of this as pseudo SSF or half trade. So not every single item can be traded. So the best items in the games are legendaries, but you can imbue rares to make them legendary. So what this means is that this is very important in the itemization of Diablo 4, because in the end, you're going to be trying to get the best items in the game. Now, how do you actually get the best items in the game? Well, the legendaries and uniques will be the best items in the game because they have this special property here that normal rares do not have. So you can see for this unique, it has imbued whirlwind periodically pulls nearby enemies to you. So this legendary amulet could be a rare at the start. So I think rares can get like 3 to 5 affixes, and then you can imbue something to turn it into a legendary. So you can think of this as like a Conqueror Exalted Orb or something like that. But basically, a lot of the best items in the game are going to start off as being rare, and then you're going to use an essence to upgrade it. And I think it's called like an imbuement or something like that. But basically, rares are going to still have enormous use case scenarios in Diablo 4. So this does mean that you can trade a very desired item. Now, you're not going to be able to trade the mat to turn it into a legendary. You can't trade any quest items. You can't trade any legendaries that straight up drop off the ground. And you can't trade any unique items. But you can trade a bunch of stuff. You can trade common items, magic items, rare items. You can trade elixirs, which are pretty much consumables. You can trade gems, which I don't really think makes that big of a difference. And then you can also trade gold. And gold is used for crafting. It's used for gear activities. It's used for respecting your passive tree. And it's also used for applying the legendary powers. So this does mean that certain well-rolled rares will be valuable, but the best items, once you turn it into a legendary, will be more or less soulbound, so you still have to find the thing to turn it into a legendary. So overall, trade is definitely going to have a factor on your player experience, and you're still going to have that rush if you find a good rare item that you can sell for a lot of gold. Now, overall, I do think one of the biggest problems I do see with the trade system is that the trade system seems like it's going to be kind of a bad experience because there's no dedicated way to look up items. You're not going to be able to go to an auction house, search up the stats that you want. By the ways that Blizzard is trying to frame it, it seems like they want you to go on the forums or they want you to camp the trade channel in order to look for the item that suddenly pops up that you magically need and then whisper the person to buy it or send an offer and then do the trade. I do think that third-party websites will probably take over and give a much better format for listing items and facilitating the trade. Now, I think it'll be very interesting to see more group solo self-found modes. So maybe if you have a party, you can have a certain amount of people in your party that you can kind of trade with. Path of Exile kind of does this in the latest events where they have a lot of group SSF modes. And I do think that playing in a group, sharing items with your friends, it's a very, very fun experience and going to be core to a lot of future upcoming ARPGs if people have friends. Now, I don't really have that many friends. So if you guys want to be in a group, let me know. But this does seem like a good middle ground with most items being tradable outside of the most powerful items. I do think that Path of Exile is even trying to kind of copy this formula, because if you look at the sanctified relics from Path of Exile, you can see that there's account bound items, and some of these items are very, very powerful, but you can't really trade it, so it kind of forces you to still play the game. Now, I do think that well-rolled rares should still be worth a lot, should still be exciting to find, exciting to identify, and exciting to sell, and then get your own rare item. Now, Diablo 4, itemization-wise, looks a lot more interesting than I expected. I do think the ability to turn all rares into uniques is super, super cool. And I don't know if PoE could copy that. Imagine you could take one line on a unique and then turn it into a rare item and then turn that rare into a pseudo unique. I do think that that could be potentially something that GGG does down the line. Now, for all these Diablo 4 videos, I'm going to be framing it in Path of Exile terms. So if you don't understand what I'm saying, don't worry about it. I do think that most of my audience does play Path of Exile. So if you explain Diablo 4 in that framework, it should help my audience to understand a lot more about how Diablo 4 is as a game. Now, Path of Exile is definitely trending towards soulbound items, especially in Sanctum from what I saw. So maybe the next league will have more soulbound items. And that's definitely going to have a factor on how trade is approached in ARPG. So you can see right here how the itemization in D4 actually works. You have an item, you use the Codex of Power, and then you can choose the unique attribute and then turn the rare into kind of a pseudo legendary. But thanks for watching, everyone. Let me know down in the comments below if you like this half-baked trade idea or half-baked full-blown trade that Diablo 4 implements. And if you would like to see GGG adopt having more soulbound items or have more items that aren't tradable like Diablo 4 currently has. And let me know down in the comments below how you think the itemization of Diablo 4 is shaping up to be. I'm going to do a lot more videos on Diablo 4 regarding like the open beta, different classes, the passive tree, and the end game. And I really do not know that much about the game, but I'm going to do some research and share it with everyone. But thanks for watching. I hope you find more gold, mirrors, and eternals than me. And see you next time. Bye.